Welcome back, my dear family. Let me ask you this. Have you ever wondered if the woman smiling at you every morning, the person you've called mom for the last 20 years, is actually who she says she is? A single DNA test ripped away the velvet curtain of a prestigious family. Thu was horrified to discover the truth. She and her brother Toan aren't blood relatives. And worse, neither of them is the biological child of that powerful woman. They were just two investments raised for profit. When their usefulness ran out, Toan was erased from the world as if he never existed, and Thu was forced into exile to silence her. But they made a mistake. Silence isn't submission. It's preparation for a storm. Thu decided to walk right back into the lion's den. A fateful flight. A life-or-death confrontation between a betrayed adopted daughter and a ruthless foster mother. Will Thu find Tuan before it's too late? Or is she next on the hit list? Hold on to your seats. Hit that subscribe button right now. And don't look away for a second. Because the cruel truth behind this mansion's doors will make you shudder. Thu's office was dead silent. Outside, rain started to patter against the glass, but Thu couldn't hear a thing. All she heard was a buzzing sound ringing in her ears. Like a siren, on the cold oak desk lay two files, one for her, one for Toan, her brother. Her hands trembling uncontrollably, Thu picked up the first test result. No biological relationship. The bold red text hit her eyes like a slap in the face. Toan, the brother who carried her to school in the rain, who skipped breakfast to buy her a hair clip, wasn't Mom's biological son. Thu tried to calm herself down. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe Mom adopted him. But when she flipped to the second paper, her own result, her world officially collapsed. No biological relationship. Her too. Thu slumped over the desk, a sob stuck in her throat. It turned out in this luxurious villa, no one was related to anyone. Toan and Thu, two kids who grew up under the same roof, calling the same woman Mom, were actually just strangers. Two orphans, collected and placed together by the calculating hands of a woman with an agenda. Memories started rewinding in Thu's mind like a horror movie. She remembered her childhood. It wasn't filled with warm hugs, but with ironclad rules. If you're not top of the class, this term, don't even think about stepping foot in this house. Toan, you have to study business administration. You have to make money. I didn't spend a fortune feeding you just so you could go paint pictures. Back then, Thu naively thought it was just tough love. She thought Mom wanted what was best for them. But now, as the curtain was lifted, she understood the nature of it all. That wasn't parenting. That was an investment. She didn't raise children. She raised money-making machines. Every sacrifice, every achievement, every paycheck they brought home over the years was just to feed that woman's bottomless greed. She had brainwashed them with the word filial piety, turning them into obedient puppets. Amidst the storm tearing her apart, the image of Toan appeared clearer than ever. Thu remembered being 10 years old and breaking Mom's precious antique vase. Mom furiously raised the rattan cane. It was Toan who rushed in using his own back to shield her. I broke it. Hit me, don't hit her. The scar on Toan's back was still there, a scar of love. Thu, wiped her tears, looking at the photo of the two of them on the desk. What does bloodline even mean? If people share blood, but treat each other like tools like merchandise, then what's the point? Tuan, who didn't share a drop of blood with her, was the only person in the world willing to sacrifice himself for her. They grew up together in the loneliness of that vast mansion. They endured mom's subtle psychological manipulation together. They relied on each other to survive the harshest days. "You are my brother. You'll always be my brother." Thu whispered, her voice firm. In that moment of extreme pain, an invisible strength rose within her. This truth didn't break her. It was a wake-up call. She had to save Toan. She had to tell him the truth before it was too late. But Thu didn't know that. She was one step too late. Just as Thu picked up her phone to call Toan, she noticed something strange. Toan's number does not exist. Not, "The subscriber is unavailable," but the number had been permanently disconnected. A chill ran down her spine. She rushed to open her laptop, accessing the family company's database, where Toan was the branch director. Toan's name had vanished from the personnel list. His records were wiped clean. His work email was disabled. Even when Thu called Tuan's close friends, they stuttered. "Tuan, haven't seen him in ages. I heard he moved abroad for good." Moved abroad? When, "I don't know, your mom said so." Thu realized in horror. This wasn't a coincidence. This was a purge, a perfect erasure plan. Her mother, or rather that cruel woman, was one step ahead. She knew Toan had started to get suspicious. She knew Toan had no more use value. Or worse, he had become a burden. A danger to her empire. And her rule was simple. Anything that doesn't yield a profit must be eliminated. She didn't just kick Toan out. She was trying to erase his existence from the face of the earth, as if he had never been born. Where is Toan? Is he alive or dead? Is he being held captive somewhere? Fear turned into panic. Thu realized she was facing a real monster. A monster that knew how to use money and power to bend reality. And then it was Thu's turn. The door burst open. Her mother walked in. Still that elegance, still that fake gentle smile. But in Thu's eyes, now it was the smile of a devil. She placed a thick envelope on the desk. "Thu, I have good news for you." Her voice was sweet, like pouring honey. "The group just signed a major contract in Europe. I've arranged for you to go there as a representative. This is a great opportunity for your career." Thu opened the envelope. Inside was a one-way plane ticket. Departure date tomorrow. This wasn't an offer. It was a command, a deportation order. She wanted to separate her from Toan. She wanted to ship her far away, so she couldn't continue investigating, couldn't dig up the garbage of her past. "Mom, why the rush? I haven't prepared anything." Thu tried to keep her voice steady, though her hands were gripping the desk edge until they turned white. Her mother stepped closer, placing a hand on Thu's shoulder. That hand felt ice cold, heavy as a shackle. She leaned close to her ear, whispering. The words were soft, but reeked of a threat. "Opportunity doesn't knock twice, daughter. Go. Don't ask questions. And absolutely, don't look back. There is nothing left here for you to miss." Her eyes bored into the DNA test result, that Thu had hastily flipped face down moments ago. She knew. She knew Thu knew everything. This trip wasn't for business. It was a trip to silence a loose end. My dear friends, Thu is standing at a life and death crossroads. If she boards that plane, she's safe, but she loses Toan forever. Toan will be completely wiped from this world. If she stays, she has to face the most powerful and cruel woman she once called Mom. Will Thu dare to defy the expulsion order? What is Toan's fate right now? Is he on the run, or has he fallen into Mother's hands? And the most horrifying secret about the true origins of the two siblings still lies in the shadows. Thu stepped out of the police station. The glass door slammed shut behind her with a dry thud, severing the fragile protection she had just sought. The city sky was gray, heavy, with dark clouds swirling to signal a massive storm. The cold wind whipped her face, tangling her hair, but it couldn't match the chill spreading through her heart. She had done it. She had denounced the most powerful woman in her life. Thu stood there, taking a deep breath, waiting for a sense of relief. But no. Instead, there was a terrifying silence. Her phone was dead quiet. No threatening calls, no warning texts. This silence, it was abnormal. With someone like her mother, Mrs. Ngaklan's silence was the sound of a silencer being loaded. Thu took a taxi to a shabby motel deep in an alley instead of the 5-star hotels she usually stayed at. She knew she was prey now, and Thu's fear was proven right the very next morning. Phone rings urgently. "Hello, this is Thu." "Hello, Ms. Thu. I am Lieutenant Colonel Hung, the one who took your file yesterday." Thu's heart pounded. "Yes, is there any news about Toan? Did you summon Mrs. Lan?" The other end was silent for a moment. Then a cold, distant voice spoke completely different from the enthusiastic tone during the statement-taking. "Ms. Thu, we have done a preliminary verification. Mrs. Ngak's Lan provided full documentation proving that Mr. Toan voluntarily went to Singapore for psychological treatment. There is even his signature in a confirmation video." "What?" Thu screamed, her trembling hand almost dropping the phone. "That's impossible. It's a fake. He would never leave without telling me he is completely normal. Why would he need psychological treatment?" "Calm down, miss. The papers are perfectly legal. Furthermore," the officer's voice lowered, full of implication, "Mrs. Lan also provided your medical records showing you are under immense pressure and showing signs of paranoia. We advise you to go home and rest. Don't complicate family matters." Beep, beep, beep. Thu's arm dropped limp. The phone fell onto the bed. "Paranoia, family matters." Thu laughed. A bitter, tearful laugh. She was one step ahead. She didn't need violence. She used money to buy the truth, used power to bend the law, and used the title of a concerned mother to turn Thu into a crazy daughter slandering her own mom. In that damp motel room, Thu realized a cruel truth. In this city, justice is not for the weak. She was all alone. Thu sat huddled in the corner, watching the rain lash against the window. If the police wouldn't help, she had to save herself and save Toan. Psychological treatment in Singapore. Thu muttered the officer's words. That was definitely a lie. But inside every lie is a kernel of truth. She said Toan had psychological problems. Maybe. She had locked him up in a mental asylum, but where? Suddenly a memory flashed. Thu remembered Nanny Nam, the old nanny who had raised them both from childhood, but was fired without cause 3 years ago. On the day she was fired, Nanny Nam had cried and whispered something into Toan's ear. She was the only one in that house with a heart, and she knew more than she let on. Thu threw on a raincoat, pulled her hat low over her face, and rushed out into the pouring rain. She found her way to the poor boarding houses by the river, where Nanny Nam was barely scraping by selling lottery tickets. When Nanny Nam saw Thu standing at her door, soaked like a drowned rat, she dropped her bowl of rice. Miss Thu, Nanny." Thu rushed in, hugging the frail woman, tight, sobbing uncontrollably. After listening to Thu recount everything, Nanny Nam tremblingly locked the door tight and pulled Thu into the darkest corner of the house. I knew it. I knew this day would come. She whispered, her voice full of fear. "What do you know, Nanny? Where is Toan? What has she done to him?" Nanny Nam gripped Thu's hand, her old eyes flashing with horror. "Miss the mistress. She isn't human. She raised you two just to harvest your fortune. A fortune teller said your destinies were perfect for her business, so she adopted you. But when Master Toan started demanding rights at the company, she saw him as a thorn in her side. A month ago, I was selling lottery tickets near the outskirts. I saw the mistress's car drive into the Bak Kuk Mental Sanitarium. Bak Kuk Sanitarium. Thu frowned. It was an isolated facility deep in the pine forest, notorious as a place where the wealthy dump their unwanted relatives to be out of sight, out of mind. I saw them carrying a man inside, covered completely with a blanket. But I recognized the shoes, the sneakers you gave Master Toan for his birthday last year. I didn't dare tell anyone. I was afraid the mistress would kill me." Thu squeezed Nanny Nam's hand tight. "Thank you, Nanny. You just saved his life." The clue was found. Toan wasn't in Singapore. He was right here in a prison, disguised by a fancy name, a sanitarium. That night, the rain was still pouring down. Bak Kuk Sanitarium loomed in the middle of the pine forest like a haunted castle. 3-meter-high walls topped with barbed wire. Searchlights swept back and forth like the eyes of the reaper. Thu was no longer the fragile rich girl. Hatred had turned her into a warrior. Dressed in black, wearing a mask, she navigated through the old sewage drain she had found on the city planning map. The stench of the sewer assaulted her nose, making her want to vomit, but she gritted her teeth and pushed on. Splash! Splash! Thu climbed up into the inner grounds. The silence was eerie. Only the wind whistling through the leaves and distant screams echoing from Building C, the ward for severe patients. Thu's heart pounded in her chest. She sneaked into the nurse's station quickly, stealing a white lab coat and a key card. Head down. Thu pushed a medicine cart along the endlessly long corridor. The smell of antiseptic was overpowering. On both sides were hospital rooms with solid iron doors. Through the small glass windows, she saw vacant eyes staring out. She stopped at a computer at the deserted reception desk. Thu's fingers flew across the keyboard. Search new admissions. Last month. The list appeared. No name Toan. Thu panicked. Could Nanny have been mistaken? But then she saw a strange entry. Patient X, special room, 404, total isolation. Guardian, Mrs. N.L. Ngachlan. It was him. It had to be him. Thu rushed toward the elevator. 4th floor, restricted area. The door to room 404 appeared before Thu, cold and heavy. She swiped the card. Beep. Click. The door opened. Thu stepped inside. The room was pitch black, lit only by dim street lights filtering through the barred window. In the corner, on a simple iron bed, someone was curled up. Thu approached, turning on her phone flashlight. Brother. Toan. Her voice trembled, breaking. The man on the bed slowly turned around. Thu covered her mouth to stifle a scream. It was Toan, but not the dashing, poised Toan of the past. He was emaciated cheeks, sunken hair and beard, long and matted. But the most terrifying thing was his eyes. His eyes were glazed over, soulless, looking at Thu, as if looking right through her. Toan, it's me, Thu. I'm here to save you. Thu rushed to shake his shoulders. Tuan blinked, mumbling nonsense words. Don't hit. I signed the papers. Don't inject anymore. It hurts. Thu hugged him tight, tears streaming down like rain. Oh God, what had she done to him? High-dose sedatives, electroshock psychological torture. Her strong brother, her only support, was now reduced to a soulless shell cowering in fear. We're leaving. I'm getting you out of here right now. Thu tried to help Toan up. Toan clung weakly to her shoulder, walking unsteadily. They supported each other to the door, but just as they stepped into the hallway, click! All the hallway lights blazed on, blindingly bright. Thu squinted. At the end of the corridor, a group of men in black suits stood like a wall, and standing in the middle of them was an elegant woman in a pristine white suit, holding a glass of red wine. It was Mom, Mrs. Ngachlan, the sound of high heels clicking on the cold tile floor. Clack, clack, clack. Every step she took seemed to crush Thu's newly kindled hope. She stopped 5 meters away from the siblings, flashing that familiar gentle smile, the smile that had deceived them for the past 20 years. Hello, my darling daughter. Welcome home. Her voice was soft but sharp as a razor blade. I've been waiting for you here all night. I knew you were smart. You wouldn't sit still. But child, you are so naive. Thu gripped Toan's hand tight, standing in front of her brother, as a shield eyes burning with hatred staring straight at that woman. You are not my mother. You are a devil. What did you do to him? Why are you so cruel? Mrs. Lon took a sip of wine, shaking her head with pity. Cruel no Thu. It's business. Your brother was too stubborn. He wanted his shares back. He wanted to investigate the slush fund. Mommy was just retraining him a little. She snapped her fingers. The burly bodyguards rushed forward. Run through run. Suddenly, Toan seemed to snap out of his stupor. He used his last ounce of strength to shove Thu violently toward the emergency exit. Brother, no. Run, live, to avenge me go. Toan lunged forward, hugging the legs of two bodyguards tight, screaming like a mad beast to buy time for his sister. Thu was shoved to the ground. She looked back. Toan was being pummeled by the mob, but his hands refused to let go of their legs. He looked at her one last time, his eyes begging live. Thu bit her lip until it bled. She turned and sprinted down the emergency stairs. Mrs. Land's laughter echoed from the hallway above. Run, daughter, run for your life. Let's see how long you can hide in this city. Thu rushed out into the night, plunging into the pouring rain. Rainwater mixed with tears. She had failed to save Toan tonight, but she had saved something more important, the truth. She'd seen that woman's crimes with her own eyes. And most importantly, the fire in Toan's eyes had been passed on to her. This war isn't over. It's only just begun. And the next time she returns, she won't be alone. She will bring a storm that will drown that woman's entire empire. My dear friends, Thu is forced to flee once again. But this time, she carries a burning vengeance etched into her bones. What will happen to Toan in the hands of that cruel woman after tonight? Where will Thu go, and who will she find to give her the power to fight such a mighty corporation? And who is the mysterious figure Toan mentioned in his delirium? Don't take your eyes off the screen. The fate of these two siblings is hanging by a thread. Hit like to give Thu strength and subscribe to the channel immediately. The next episode will feature a spectacular transformation.